You see them standing at the edge of the family photo. They are the one who smiles, but their eyes look away. They feel like a guest in their own childhood home. The world calls this a tragedy, but heaven says this is the mark of a chosen vessel. They are the ones who were never enough. They are the ones who were always too much. They are the ones who God kept for himself. Maybe you buy gifts for people who forget your birthday. Maybe you rehearse stories because no one listens. Maybe you check your phone. It is a heavy silence. You stay quiet just to keep the peace. You feel like a stranger in your own house. This video is your invitation. Your rejection was actually a form of divine protection. God moved you so he could grow you. It was a setup. Let us look at the truth about biological family. Many people think that blood is the only bond. This is a lie. Your identity was written before you were even born. God knew your name before your parents did. He saw the moments. He saw the tears you cried in the dark. He was standing right there. In the book of Psalms, chapter 27, verse 10. It says, "When my father and mother forsake me, then the Lord will take me up." This is a promise from God himself. He is a father to the fatherless. He is a mother to the unloved. He is your real father. He sees your worth. Think about David when he was a young shepherd. His father Jesse did not even invite him to dinner. Samuel came to visit. Everyone else was sitting at the table. He was the forgotten son. David was left out in the fields alone. He was the last choice of his family, but he was the first choice of God. The rejection was the starting point. It led him to the throne. Jesus Christ lived this same experience as well. He came to his own people. They did not understand his mission. He had no home. If the Son of God felt this rejection, then he understands you. You are not a mistake. You are a masterpiece in the making. Let us begin the journey. Number 1. The rejection you felt was actually divine protection in disguise. This is how God kept your heart from being corrupted. Let us start with the truth no one wants to say out loud. You spent years trying to fit into a mold that was too small for you. You laughed at jokes that were not funny. You did this just to keep from being teased. You changed the way you spoke in public. You did not want to sound too smart for them. You wore clothes you hated just to blend in. You dim your light so others do not feel small. But no matter what you did, the door remained closed. They still found a reason to point out your flaws. They still made sure you knew you were different. You were trying to stay in a room that was toxic. You were begging for a seat at a table that was poisoning you. Think about the holidays at your house. You walk through the front door with a heavy heart. You see everyone laughing in the kitchen. The room goes quiet the moment you enter. Someone makes a comment about your clothes or your job. You feel the air. Leave the room. You sit on the couch and stare at the television. No one asks how your year has been. You realize they know everything about each other. They know nothing about you. You feel like a ghost in your own living room. You think this means you are broken. You think it means you are flawed. But God was actually sealing you off. He was keeping you from their gossip. He was keeping you from their limited vision. He was making sure their bitterness did not enter your spirit. Sound familiar? The Bible gives us a clear picture of this. In the book of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 20, Joseph speaks to his brothers. He says, "You thought evil against me, but God meant it for good." These brothers did not just ignore him. They threw him into a dry pit in the desert. They sold him to traders for 20 pieces of silver. They lied to their father and said a beast killed him. They wanted to erase him from the family story. But God used that rejection to save an entire nation. If Joseph had stayed at home, he would have stayed a shepherd. Because he was rejected, he became a prince. The pit was the only path to the palace. Your family's coldness was the wall that kept you safe. Consider Gideon as well. We find his story in of Judges chapter 6. He was the least in his father's house. His family was the weakest in the tribe of Manasseh. He felt small and insignificant. He was hiding in a winepress to thresh wheat. He was hiding from the Midianite army. But an angel appeared and called him a mighty man of valor. His family saw a coward. God saw a conqueror. Gideon had to leave the shadow of his father's house. He had to pull down the idols his father had built. Only then could he build an altar to the true God. Sometimes you cannot build your future while standing in your family's shadow. God let them push you away so you would stop looking back. It was not a lack of love. It was a surplus of purpose. Number 2, you were made different because you are the cycle breaker. God designed you to be the one who finally heals. That friction you feel is the sound of chains breaking. Let me say this straight. You were always the one who asked the hard questions. You were the one who pointed out the secret pain. They called you sensitive or difficult for it. You saw the same patterns of anger repeating. You saw the same addictions hurting every generation. You decided you would not participate anymore. You were the one who walked away from the fighting. You chose to speak with kindness instead of venom. They do not understand your peace. It makes them uncomfortable. Your health is a mirror to their sickness. That is why they push you away. Think about the way they talk about you. They say you think you are better than them. They say you have changed. They call you a stranger because you stopped reacting. You used to yell back when they attacked you. Now you just stay silent and pray. You used to join in on the gossip. Now you change the subject or leave. You are building a new heritage. You are planting seeds in a different garden. It is a lonely task to be the first. You are a pioneer in your own bloodline. Maybe that is you. In the book of Genesis, chapter 12, we see this clearly. God speaks to a man named Abraham. He tells him to leave his country. He tells him to leave his kindred. He tells him to leave his father's house. This was a radical command. Abraham's father, Terah, was an idol worshiper. He lived in a culture of false gods. If Abraham stayed, he would have become like them. He would have worshipped what they worshipped. He would have stayed stuck in their cycle. But God had a promise for him. He wanted to make him the father of many nations. He had to remove him from the old house. He had to separate him to bless him. You are in a similar season of separation. Your family represents the old way of living. They represent the habits that God wants to stop. If you stayed close, you would stay stuck. God made you different so you could see the exit. He gave you a different heart. He gave you a different vision. You are not a rebel. You are a redeemer of your family's future. You are the one who will teach your children peace. You are the peace, one who will show them grace. You are the bridge to a new life. Consider the story of Ruth. She was not a Hebrew. She was a woman from the land of Moab. Her family worshipped the god Chemosh, but she chose to leave her people behind. She told her mother-in-law her people would be her people. She chose the God of Israel over her own blood. She walked away from everything she knew. She was a foreigner in a strange land. She worked in the fields just to survive. But God noticed her faithfulness. He placed her in the lineage of Jesus Christ. She broke the cycle of her pagan upbringing. She became a mother of kings. The world says you are a traitor. God says you are a trailblazer. Number 3, the silence of your family was actually God's secret hiding place. You were not being ignored. You were being insulated. Let's be honest. It hurts to be the one no one asks for advice. You sit at the dinner table and watch them talk over you. You share a victory and they change the subject. You tell them about a struggle and they look at their phones. You have spent your whole life feeling like a background character. You feel like the person who just fills a seat. In their eyes, you are unremarkable. You are just the quiet one. You are the one who does not cause trouble. So they leave you alone. They do not invest in your dreams. They do not water your garden. They assume you do not need much. Because you do not ask for much. You have learned to live on the crumbs of their attention. Think about the way you walk into a room. You try to be as small as possible. You do not want to take up too much space. You have been trained to believe your voice does not matter. When you were a child, you stayed in your room. You read books or played alone for hours. No one came to check on you. No one asked what you were thinking. You felt like you were invisible. You thought it was because you were not valuable. You thought it was because you had nothing to offer. You looked at your siblings who got all the praise. You wondered what was wrong with you. You wondered why God made you so plain. You have been there. The Bible shows us that God loves to use what others overlook. In the book of 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 7, the text says something powerful. It says, "That man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." People see the surface. God sees the substance. He knows what is inside of you. He is the one who put it there. He is not impressed by the loud voices he is looking for the faithful ones in the shadows. Think about Moses. He was born into a family that could not keep him. His mother had to hide him in a basket. She placed him in the Nile River to save his life. He grew up in a palace where he did not belong. He was an outsider among the Egyptians. Then he spent 40 years in the backside of the desert. He was a shepherd for his father-in-law. He was a man with a stutter. He was a man with a past. His own people did not recognize his leadership at first. He was hidden in the wilderness for 4 decades. No one was cheering for him. No one was calling him a hero. But that was where God spoke to him. The burning bush did not happen in the palace. It happened in the lonely place. God hid Moses from the world so he could prepare him for the mountain. Your period of being overlooked was not a mistake. It was a season of seasoning. God kept you away from the spotlight because the spotlight would have burned you. He kept you away from their praise because their praise would have become your prison. He wanted you to learn to hear his voice alone. He wanted you to find your worth in him, not in them. You are a treasure that was buried for a reason. You are being dug up now, hidden. Number 4, your family did not reject you. They simply failed to recognize you. There is a difference between being hated and being misunderstood. Here is what nobody tells you. You walk into the room as a grown person. You have a career and a life of your own. You have a faith that sustains you. But the moment you sit down, you become a child again. They speak to you with the same tone they used years ago. They bring up your old failures like they happened yesterday. You try to show them the fruit of your hard work. They look right past it. You share a deep thought or a prayer. They stare at you with blank eyes. It is not that they hate you. It is that they are blind to who you have become. You are a different species now. You are a spirit-led being, living in a flesh-led house. Their eyes are fixed on the past. Your soul is moving toward the future. You reach for the phone to call them. You want to share some good news. You finally overcame a habit that was hurting you. You take a breath and then you stop. You realize they will not understand. They will ask why it took you so long. They will remind you of the person you used to be. They will not celebrate the win. You put the phone back down. You have realized that you are speaking a different language. You are talking about vision, and they are talking about survival. You are talking about growth, and they are talking about status. You can spend an hour in their presence and feel like you were never there. They look at your face and see a role you used to play. They do not see the soul that God has refined. They are looking at the box you outgrew. In the book of Matthew, chapter 13, verse 57, Jesus spoke about this. He said, "A prophet is not without honor, except in his own country, He said honor is missing in his own house. His neighbors saw a carpenter's son. They saw a man who fixed chairs and tables. They remembered him as a boy in the streets. They did not see the King of Kings. They did not see the Messiah. Their familiarity was a blindfold. It kept them from seeing the miracle standing in front of them. If they did it to Jesus, they will do it to you. Do not expect those who knew you in the flesh to understand you in the spirit. Think about David's oldest brother, Eliab. We find this in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 28. David came to the battle lines to bring food to his brothers. He saw the giant Goliath mocking the army of God. David asked why no one was fighting. Eliab did not see a warrior. He did not see the future king of Israel. He saw a naughty little brother who should be home with the sheep. He attacked David's character. He called him proud. He called him wicked. Eliab was looking at David's history. God was looking at David's destiny. David had to turn away from his brother to face his giant. If he had stayed to argue with Eliab, he would have missed his victory. He had to realize that his brother's opinion was not God's truth. Consider the Apostle Paul after his conversion. The book of Acts chapter 9 tells us he went back to the believers. They were all afraid of him. They did not believe he was a disciple. They remembered Saul the persecutor. They remembered the man who hunted them down. They could not see the new man God had created. They were stuck on the old version of his story. Paul did not spend his life trying to convince them. He went into the desert to be taught by God. He allowed the Spirit to validate him. He stopped looking for approval from people who only knew his past. They see where you came from. God sees where you are going. Number 5. The absence of earthly affection made room for a supernatural encounter. Let me show you how this really works. Your empty hands were the only ones ready to receive. You spent your childhood watching the way love worked for everyone else. You watched your siblings get the hugs at bedtime. You saw the pride in your father's eyes when your brother spoke. You stood in the hallway and waited for your turn. You waited for the hand on your shoulder. You waited for the words, "I am proud of you," but the door usually closed before you could walk in. You learned to comfort yourself in the dark. You whispered your secrets to the ceiling fan in your room. You made your own bed and tucked yourself in at night. You became your own cheerleader because the house was silent. You developed a world inside your head that no one else could enter. You went for long walks alone, just to feel something besides the cold. You walked until your legs were tired. You sat on a park bench and watched other families laugh. You felt like a spectator. In the game of life, you were the one on the outside looking in, but something happened in that isolation. In that deep silence, you started to hear a whisper. It was not a voice of flesh and blood. It was a still, small voice that spoke to your soul. It told you that you were seen. It told you that you were loved with an everlasting love. You did not find God in a crowded family dinner. You did not find him in the noise of a happy home. You found him in the empty space they left behind. Your loneliness became the laboratory where your faith was built. You learned to pray because you had no one else to talk to. You learned to trust because humans had failed you. You developed a spiritual hunger that your siblings never had. They were full of the world's affection. You were empty, so God could fill with himself. Your deficit was actually your greatest advantage. Is this starting to make sense? The Bible says in Psalm chapter 34, verse 18, that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He saves those who are crushed in spirit. He is right there in the wreckage of your heart. He is a specialist in broken things. Look at Jacob in the book of Genesis, chapter 28. He was running for his life from his own brother, Esau. His mother had sent him away. His father was old and deceived. Jacob had no bed. He had no family to welcome him in the wilderness. He was completely alone under the stars. He took a hard stone and used it for a pillow. Think about that for a moment. He was resting his head on a rock. He was at the lowest point of his journey. But in that exact moment of isolation, heaven opened up. He had a vision of a ladder, reaching from earth to the sky. He saw angels ascending and descending on it. He realized that God was in that place. He had no idea God was so close. The cold stone pillow was actually the gate of heaven. Your cold family home was the desert, where God met you. If you had been comfortable, you would have stayed asleep. If they had loved you perfectly, you might have never sought God. The pain was the alarm clock that woke you up. You had to rest your head on the rock of Christ. You had to learn that His presence is better than their praise. Jacob woke up and said, "Surely the Lord is in this place." You are beginning to say the same thing. You are realizing that the lack of human touch made room for a divine embrace. God did not cause the hurt, but He certainly used the hole it left in your heart. He filled it with a peace that passes understanding. You are a graduate of the school of the wilderness. He was there. Number 6. Your identity is defined by your Creator. It is not defined by your bloodline. This is the moment you stop looking at the family tree to find your worth. Let us be honest. You look at your birth certificate. You see the names written in black ink. You feel a heavy sense of duty to those people. You want to honor them. You want to love them well. But you also feel a deep and painful disconnect. You have spent your whole life trying to fit. You tried to be the child they wanted. You followed all of their silent rules. If they were disappointed, you felt worthless. If they were angry, you felt like a failure. You let people who do not know God tell you who you are. You have allowed their brokenness to define your beauty. You stand in front of the mirror every morning. You see their eyes. You wonder if you are destined to repeat their mistakes. You wonder if their lack of love is a permanent stain. You feel like a branch with no roots. You feel like a story with no beginning. You have been waiting. You have been waiting for them to say you belong. Think about the way you walk into their house. You check your posture. You watch your words. You try to be the person they expect. You are tired of performing. You are exhausted from wearing a mask. You have realized that they are not the authors of your soul. They are merely the vessel. They provided the physical house, but God provided the spiritual life. You are not a product of their dysfunction. You are a product of His design. Your DNA contains more than just their history. It contains the breath of the Almighty. You have a heritage that goes back further than their memories. You belong to a kingdom that has no end. You are a citizen of heaven, living in a temporary home. You are a child of the Most High King. His love is the only label that sticks. His word is the only truth that matters. Does this sound familiar? In the book, it says you are a chosen generation. It says you are a royal priesthood. It says you are a holy nation. This is a divine decree. God has already decided who you are. He did not ask your mother for her opinion. He did not check with your father before He chose you. He looked at your life and said, "You are mine." He set you apart for His glory. He gave you a name that no one can take away. Consider the story. She was an orphan in a foreign land. She had no mother. She had no father to guide her. Her identity was not tied to her parents. She was raised by her cousin Mordecai. In the eyes of the world, she was a nobody. She was a girl with no family standing. She was a refugee in a giant empire. But God had a plan for her life. He did not need her bloodline to be perfect. He did not need her parents to be prominent. He placed her in the palace. He gave her favor with everyone she met. She became the queen who saved her entire people. She realized that her past, her lack of a traditional family, did not stop God's favor. She was chosen for such a time as this. Just as Esther's worth was found in her divine mission, your value is found in your purpose. not in the approval of your kin. So the question is not who they say you are. The question is, whose voice will you finally believe? Number 7. The family you lost was the price for the family you found. God is building a circle that cannot be broken by blood. Let me tell you the truth about your future. You sit at a table that is not your own. The chairs do not match the table. The plates are all different colors and sizes. You are surrounded by people you met only a year ago. One of them is laughing. Another is leaning in to ask how your soul is doing. They do not know what you were like at 10 years old. They do not care about the mistakes you made at 20. They see the person standing in front of them right now. You feel a strange and beautiful peace in your chest. You realize you do not have to watch your words here. You do not have to hide your love for Jesus. These people are not your cousins or your siblings. They share no common DNA with your parents, but they are more your family than anyone you grew up with. Think about the last time you were sick. You did not call your mother because you knew she would judge you. You did not call your brother because he would not answer. You called a friend from your small group at church. They were at your door in 20 minutes with soup. They sat on the edge of your bed and prayed. They stayed until you fell asleep. They did not do it because they had to. They did not do it out of a sense of duty. They did it because they love you in the spirit. This is the family God promised would replace the one you lost. He allowed the old branches to fall away. He wanted to graft you into a tree that is eternal. You are finally experiencing what it means to be truly known. You are learning that belonging is a choice, not a birthright. You have felt this shift. The Bible gives us a new definition of what a family is. In the book of Mark, chapter 3, verse 34, Jesus is sitting with a crowd. His biological mother and brothers are standing outside the house. They want to take him away because they think he is crazy. They want to protect their family reputation. But Jesus does not go to them. He looks at the people sitting at his feet. He says, "Behold my mother and my brothers." Then in verse 35, he gives the key. He says, "Whoever does the will of God is my brother and sister." Jesus was not being mean to his mother. He was showing us that the Spirit creates a bond. This bond is stronger than any biological tie. It is a covenant bond that lasts forever. We see this beautifully in the life of David and Jonathan. Their story is in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 18. Jonathan was the son of King Saul. David was the man Saul was trying to kill. By blood, Jonathan should have hated David. He should have fought to keep the throne. But the Bible says the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David. In verse 3, it says they made a covenant because Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Jonathan took off his royal robe and gave it to David. He gave him his sword and his bow. He chose a friend over a father because he saw God in the friend. He became the brother David never had in his own house. Their friendship was a gift from God in a season of rejection. God is doing the same thing for you right now. He is bringing Jonathans into your life. He is sending people who will cover you when you are exposed. He is bringing mentors who will mother your spirit. He is bringing brothers who will fight for your peace. You are not meant to walk this road alone. You were rejected by the earthly house to be accepted by the heavenly one. You are finding your tribe among the believers. You are finding your home in the heart of God's people. The blood of the Lamb is thicker than the water of the womb. You are finally home. Let that sit for a moment. You were not an accident of nature. You were a design of grace. You spent your life believing you were the problem. You thought if you were better, they would love you. But the truth is much simpler than that. You were not too much. You were just too much for them. They could not hold the weight of your destiny, so they let you go. Their inability to love you was never about your value. It was a sign of their own blindness. You were not rejected. You were set apart. You are not a broken branch. You are a new tree. God did not overlook the pain of your childhood. He saw every tear. He heard every silent prayer in your room. He was the one who kept you whole. He was the one who gave you strength. You were not abandoned. You were protected from a cycle that had to end. You were the one chosen to carry the light. I want to speak to the one who grew up too fast. I see the one who carried every heavy burden alone. You have been the family anchor for too long. You have looked for a home in people who were hollow. You have begged for crumbs from an empty table. You can put that weight down now. Your Father in heaven is not like your Father on earth. He does not need you to be perfect to be loved. He does not demand that you perform for his attention. He just wants you. He sees the scars on your heart. He calls them beautiful. He sees the rejection you faced. He calls it a promotion. You are a daughter of the King. You are a son of the Most High. You have a seat at a royal table. This is the final truth you must carry today. Your identity is not a reflection of their opinion. It is a reflection of his love. You do not have to earn your way into his family. You were born into it the moment you said yes. You are no longer an outsider. You are no longer a stranger. You are a cornerstone in a new building. The world may have forgotten your name, but God has it engraved on his palm. You were never meant to be defined by who stayed. You were meant to be refined by who left. You are seen. You are known. You are chosen.